So the most dangerous thing in your yard right now, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's in the power lines, and it's not the weather.
Yeah.
It is actually, well, it's likely that beautiful, peaceful shade tree right outside your window.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we tend to look at mature trees as, just static background scenery. Like they're just big wooden pillars that happen to hold up some leaves.
Right, just part of the architecture.
Exactly. But when you look at the actual biology and the immense mechanical stress they are constantly under, they're incredibly volatile structures.
And that volatility is basically the entire mission of our deep dive today.
Ah.
We've got this fascinating stack of articles and blog posts written by John Constantine for Covina Tree Service, and we are just diving straight into the full spectrum of local arboriculture.
Yeah, it covers everything.
Literally everything. Routine pruning, aggressive ivy removal, emergency extractions, stump grinding. So the goal today is to completely change how you look at suburban landscaping. Because we want to prove that the trees in your yard, they aren't just giant plants.
No, they're really not.
They're complex biological systems that require, like, really precise engineering to manage safely.
Well, and to really grasp why this requires actual engineering, you have to look at the specific environment. The sources focus pretty heavily on West Covina, which has this classic Mediterranean climate.
Right, so hot, dry summers and super mild winters, which sounds great for us, right?
People love it. But the trees, they are constantly fighting it. They are basically in a perpetual state of environmental stress. And that stress makes their growth really unpredictable.
Which turns them into a problem.
A huge problem. It turns neglected trees from valuable property assets into these massive, unpredictable liabilities.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we are talking about massive liabilities, we really need to look at the top of the tree first, the canopy.
Yeah, that's where the trouble starts.
Because when the weather turns, that is where the most immediate destruction happens, right? I mean, a lot of folks assume tree trimming is basically just, I don't know, giving the yard a haircut.
Just snipping the shaggy bits.
Right. But the sources emphasize this highly technical procedure. They call it crown thinning. And the analogy they use is great. Imagine a dense, overgrown tree canopy as a giant, solid canvas sail on a boat.
Oh, that's a perfect way to visualize it.
Yeah. So when extreme winds hit, that solid canvas catches literally every ounce of the force. And eventually the mast, which in this case is the tree trunk, is going to just violently snap under all that pressure.
It has nowhere else to go.
Exactly. So crown thinning is this surgical process of cutting really precise slits in that canvas sail so the wind just passes right through instead of knocking the whole structure over.
And that mechanical reduction in wind resistance is, it's absolutely critical when you factor in local weather challenges, specifically the notorious Santa Ana winds in that area.
Oh, yeah. Those winds are no joke.
They come howling through the canyons at highway speeds. A solid, unpruned canopy acts like a literal brick wall against a Santa Ana gust. But what stands out here isn't just that the canopy needs to be thin.
Right, it's the how.
Yes. It's the intense biology behind how a certified arborist actually makes the physical cuts. It all comes down to a specific anatomical point on the tree called the branch collar.
See, I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Because when I get a cut, my body grows a scab and then, new skin. But trees are solid wood. They can't just grow new bark over a gaping hole the same way, can they?
No, they don't heal. They compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, it's this fascinating mechanism. So at the base of a branch, right where it meets the main trunk, there's this swollen area of tissue. That's the branch collar.
Okay.
When an arborist makes a cut exactly at that collar, the tree rapidly alters its cellular chemistry. It basically floods the area with protective compounds, creating a physical and chemical wall of impenetrable wood.
Wow.
Think of a submarine like sealing off flooded compartments with heavy steel doors to stop the whole ship from sinking. The tree walls off the decaying tissue to block fungi and bacteria, and then eventually new wood slowly grows around the sealed compartment.
Okay, so if someone just, I don't know, grabs a chainsaw and hacks a branch off way too close to the trunk, or they leave a long, jagged stub.
Yeah, they are essentially jamming those submarine doors wide open.
Oh, man. So the decay just marches straight into the main trunk.
Exactly. It destroys the entire defense mechanism. And this is exactly why the sources are so adamant about avoiding amateur practices like topping.
Right, topping, which is where someone just lops off the entire top of the canopy to control the height.
Yeah, just completely decapitates it.
Which seems like a terrible idea just on its face. I mean, you're basically amputating the tree's head.
It is terrible. It completely ruins the structural integrity. What happens is the tree enters this massive biological panic state.
A panic state.
Yeah, because it suddenly lost all its leaves, right. To survive, it rapidly shoots out these really weak, spindly, desperate branches just to gather some sunlight.
Just trying to stay alive.
Right. But because those new branches aren't anchored properly into the deep hardwood, they are practically guaranteed to snap off and cause damage in the very next major storm.
That makes so much sense.
Uh,
And the timing of these cuts is also a huge factor here. It's not a chore you just do like whenever you have a free Saturday.
no, definitely not.
The sources map out this very strict seasonal calendar. So late winter and early spring, right before the massive growth spurt kicks in, that is for shaping the tree and removing structurally weak branches.
Right, it's getting it ready.
But then you fast forward to late summer and early fall, after the main growing season, and the whole strategy just pivots.
Yeah.
Then it's all about removing damaged dead limbs, prepping the tree to handle the brutal mechanical stress of those winter storms.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, all that mechanical stress we're talking about in the canopy brings up another massive issue.
Oh.
Yeah, something that dramatically increases the weight and wind resistance on mature trees.
Creeping ivy.
Creeping ivy.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I have to push back just a little bit on the sources here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I look at ivy climbing up a mature oak tree or, a brick chimney, and it looks incredibly stately. It gives a house that classic, historic, established aesthetic that people pay a huge premium for.
Sure, they do.
So is having some green vines trailing up your property really a structural crisis?
Well, what's fascinating is how quickly that aesthetic charm fades when you realize you've basically planted a relentless parasite.
The parasite!
Seriously. The biology of creeping ivy is destructive by design. It doesn't just gently rest on the surface of the bark or the brick. The plant actually grows these microscopic rootlets that act exactly like masonry anchors.
Okay.
They seek out the tiniest crevices in brick, wood, stucco, whatever they can find, and once they're inside, they physically expand.
Wait, so they're using hydraulic pressure to literally pry the building materials apart from the inside out?
They do. Those expanding rootlets create microfractures in your walls and your fences, and that leads to intense moisture retention, which just completely accelerates the rot and structural deterioration of the actual materials holding your house together.
Wow. And I imagine when those same vines start climbing a 60-foot tree, the physics get completely terrifying.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about thinning the canopy to let the wind through, right? Ivy does the exact opposite.
It is the absolute worst-case scenario for wind resistance. The ivy vines fill in all those empty spaces in the canopy we just spent so much time surgically thinning out.
So it's catching all the wind again.
Exactly. It acts like a heavy, wet blanket. It adds immense mechanical weight to the branches, pulling them downward while simultaneously catching every single gust of wind. The risk of catastrophic branch failure just skyrockets.
The West Covina's climate makes this, 10 times worse.
Right.
Because there are no seasonal hard freezes in the winter to naturally kill it back.
Right. The ivy never dies back.
It's basically an incubator for uninterrupted, aggressive growth 365 days a year.
It never takes a day off, and for anyone thinking they can just, spend a Saturday pulling it off the house, the sources heavily highlight that DIY ivy removal is a fast track to complete frustration.
Right.
It almost always fails.
But wait, if I just yank the ivy off the brick, doesn't that solve the problem? Or why wouldn't I just grab a heavy-duty weed killer from the hardware store, spray the leaves, and just call it a day?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But you're actually dealing with a plant that wears chemical armor.
Chemical armor.
Yeah, ivy leaves have this really thick, waxy coating that heavily repels standard herbicides. The chemicals just beat up and roll right off.
Oh, wow.
And pulling it down is even trickier because of its regenerative capacity. If you rip the vine down, but you leave behind a single microscopic fragment of a rootlet wedged in the bark or the brick mortar,
Which grows back.
the entire plant will regrow from that tiny fragment.
That is wild.
Yeah, so true removal requires professional, total eradication to safely detach the vines without leaving a trail of regenerative anchors behind.
It's wild to think about ivy just pulling down branches from the outside. But what's even scarier is that while you're looking up at the ivy, the tree might be quietly failing right beneath your feet.
Down in the roots.
Exactly. Moving from the canopy down to the trunk and the roots, the articles paint a really alarming picture for older neighborhoods.
They really do, because older neighborhoods in West Covina are basically defined by their massive, mature trees. But decades of growth mean decades of root expansion.
Right.
And those vast, intrusive root systems do not respect property lines. They don't care about utility easements. They are blind sensors just desperately seeking out moisture.
Which usually means pipes.
Exactly. This often means wrapping around and slowly crushing aging underground plumbing lines, or even exerting enough slow hydraulic pressure to physically lift and crack thousands of pounds of concrete in a driveway.
That's like a slow motion earthquake happening right under the lawn. But
Hmm.
I mean, how do you even know a tree is structurally failing before your driveway literally splits in half or your plumbing backs up? Because I'm not a soil engineer.
No, most people aren't. You have to look for systemic distress signals, and often the earliest signs aren't on the ground at all.
Oh,
Well,
where are they?
you look for canopy dieback, where the very top branches start inexplicably dying off while the rest of the tree looks totally green. You look for deep, vertical cracks running up the main trunk, peeling bark, or, and this is a big one, fungal growth sprouting near the base of the tree.
Which means what?
It indicates severe root rot.
Oh, gross. And a rotting tree doesn't just sit there in isolation, right? It becomes this biological beacon.
Hmm.
The sources note that diseased trees actually broadcast a chemical distress signal to the local ecosystem.
They do.
And that calls in aggressive pests like bark beetles. These insects just bore into the weakened wood, lay their eggs, and absolutely feast.
Which raises a really important question about landscape management, because once those beetles finish off the dying tree, they don't just disappear.
No, they need more food.
Right. They migrate directly to the surrounding healthy vegetation. Leaving a dying tree in your yard basically allows an isolated problem to become a full-blown infestation that can wipe out your entire landscape. The hazard simply has to be removed.
Okay, so the tree has to go. But cutting down a massive oak isn't the end of the story. You are left with a massive stump.
A very big stump.
And leaving an untreated, decaying tree stump in the yard is basically setting up a zombie buffet.
A zombie buffet. I love that.
You are actively ringing the dinner bell for subterranean termites to come feast on the dead wood. And once they finish the stump, their next logical course is migrating straight to your home's foundation. Plus, decaying stumps harbor subterranean fungal diseases that travel through the soil to infect your healthy plants.
Which is exactly why professional stump grinding is a crucial, non-invasive next step. Grinding it down pulverizes the wood and protects the surrounding topsoil, which is far, far better than trying to, wrap a chain around the root ball and rip it out with a truck.
Yeah, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
It usually is. But that brings up the physical extraction of the tree itself. Because removing these dying giants in a dense suburban environment is an intense logistical challenge. You cannot just fire up a chainsaw, yell timber, and hope it misses the house.
Right, because a mature tree weighs, what, thousands of pounds?
Tens of thousands, often. Certified arborists use highly controlled rigging techniques. They employ ropes, pulleys, specialized friction devices. They dismantle the tree piece by piece.
It's methodical.
Very methodical extraction. They cut a massive limb, the rigging catches the weight, and they slowly lower it safely to the ground without crushing the neighbor's roof or the landscaping below. The physics involved absolutely rule out any DIY attempts by a homeowner with a ladder.
So what does this all mean? We are talking about highly complex biology, crushing mechanical weight, specialized rigging, and chemical-resistant invasive plants.
A lot.
It is a lot, and it logically brings us to a really harsh reality about urban forestry. Managing these mature trees is not a weekend hobby. It is a major legal and financial liability.
Oh, 100%.
Think about your own property line for a second. Let's say you've got this massive aging tree hanging over the driveway. You decide to save a few $100 by skipping your annual pruning. A heavy winter storm rolls in, that unthinned canopy catches the wind like a solid sail, and a massive branch snaps off.
And down it comes.
Right. It crushes your tenant's car, or worse, completely blocks an emergency access route for an ambulance. Who do you think pays for that?
The property owner pays for that. Neglected trees create severe liability issues for property managers, landlords, and just everyday homeowners. The financial exposure from a single fallen limb can be staggering.
Which is the real reason why hiring certified arborists is an absolute necessity. It's not just about paying for someone who is good with a chainsaw. It is about their licensing, their commercial insurance, and their specialized safety equipment.
It creates a legal firewall.
Exactly. If you hire a fully insured professional and something goes horribly wrong, say a rigged branch swings the wrong way during an extraction and hits a window, their commercial insurance covers the damage, not your personal homeowner's policy.
It completely protects you from devastating lawsuits. Taking care of your trees isn't just about curb appeal, you know. If you're renting out a property, it's literal perf that you're keeping your tenants safe. It's one of those effective ways to keep your insurance company satisfied and protect your long-term financial investment in the property.
And let's not forget the absolute maze of local bureaucracy. You can't just walk outside and cut down whatever you want just because it's on your land.
Oh, definitely not.
Navigating municipal ordinances in West Covina, deciphering strict homeowner association guidelines, dealing with city regulations for street trees or protected species. It often requires pulling specific permits and filing specialized paperwork with city arborists.
And navigating that red tape is a job in itself. Professional tree services already know the municipal landscape. They handle the compliance and the permit process, so a homeowner doesn't end up hit with a massive, unexpected fine from city code enforcement for improperly pruning a protected species.
They also provide solutions that close the loop on the environment, right? The sources highlight that professional services offer environmentally friendly options, like recycling all that green waste from the extraction directly into mulch or compost.
Which is fantastic. You keep the organic matter right on the property, which feeds the soil naturally, and it helps you avoid relying on harsh chemical fertilizers to keep your remaining trees healthy.
It really is a fascinating cycle. I mean, you're taking what was a massive liability, a dying tree, and transforming it back into a resource that sustains the rest of the landscape.
I've always believed that knowledge is most valuable when we connect it to that bigger picture.
Absolutely. So let's briefly recap the incredible journey we've just taken. We started high in the air, looking at the wind-resistant physics of the upper canopy and how arborists use cellular compartmentalization and crown thinning to let the Santa Ana winds pass right through. We climbed down the trunk, uncovering the hidden structural dangers of parasitic ivy and its waxy chemical armor. Then we dug deep underground into the subsurface threats of clumping wrecking roots and those termite-infested zombie buffets we call decaying stumps.
To zombie buffets.
And finally, we zoomed out to see the real-world legal and financial bureaucracy of managing it all safely.
Well, if there's one critical insight here, it's that your yard is a highly complex, interconnected ecosystem. Proper management means anticipating these biological and structural problems before they happen.
Right, before the storm.
Exactly. It's about proactive engineering rather than just reacting in a panic to the aftermath of a winter storm.
Anticipation is everything. Yeah. And that brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We've talked extensively about how the hot, dry Mediterranean climate in West Covina severely stresses these existing older trees. But as local climates continue to shift globally, forcing these decades-old trees to deal with absolutely unprecedented levels of drought and extreme heat stress, could the traditional, lush Southern California suburban landscape eventually be completely replaced?
Oh, wow.
Right. Are we looking at a future where these massive, aging shade trees are completely swapped out for radically different hyper-drought-resistant species, forever changing the historical aesthetic of these older neighborhoods?
That is a huge question.
It really is. It's something to think about the next time you look out your window at that slow-motion biological battle happening right in your own front yard.